and welcome back to another week in new genre books. My name is Amelia, and from Locus Magazine, I'm about to tell you the top new science fiction, fantasy, and horror books being published the week of July 25th, 2023. I've got links for timing if you want to skip to your favorite category, be it science fiction, fantasy, or horror. That's what we cover here, the good stuff. Whether you call it SF, or sci-fi, or skiffy, or science fiction, or speculative fiction, or science fantasy, or epic fantasy, or space opera, or dark fantasy, or psychological horror, I could do this all day. It's all the things we like, and we're here for it. All the books, all the stories. Starting with science fiction books this week, we have 3 science fiction titles being published. From Pierce Brown, we saw Lightbringer out from Del Rey in hardcover, ebook, and audio. This is a science fiction novel, the 6th in the Red Rising series. The Reaper is a legend, more myth than man, the savior of worlds, the leader of the Rising, the breaker of chains. But the Reaper's also just a guy named Darrow who's been defeated in battle, trying to return to his wife and sovereign Virginia to defend Mars from its bloodthirsty would-be conqueror, Lysander. From Brian Andrews and Jeffrey Wilson, we saw The Sandbox out from Blackstone Publishing in hardcover, trade paperback, ebook, and audio. This is a science fiction techno-thriller / horror novel. Homicide detective Valerie Marks investigates the murder of an AI company's CEO. Brian Nelson, author of The Last Swordmaker, described it like this: "What really makes this a standout novel is the bad guy. In the sentient AI system named Charlie, Andrews and Wilson have created the most disturbing and frightening antagonist since Arthur C. Clarke's HAL 9000. A nemesis so powerful that he can plunge his victims into a VR-generated haunted house where they can no longer discern the digital from the real. And the scariest thing of all is that this isn't science fiction, this is the technology that is at our fingertips today." From Rob Travellino, we saw Revolution Empire, History Never Retreats, out from Permuted Press in trade paperback. This is a young adult, alternate world dystopian science fiction novel, the first in a series inspired by the American Revolution, but with modern-day teen rebels led by Donovan Washington Rush, fighting against a corporate empire filled with multicultural recreations of the heroes of America's revolutionary past. America is a nation that loves an underdog, for sure. We have no titles in horror this week. The horror. It's okay though, you probably have a few on your to-be-read pile already, and there's more where those came from, or there will be soon. Next up, fantasy, we have 12 titles this week. From P. Djèlí Clark, we saw Abeni's Song out from Starscape in hardcover, trade paperback, ebook, and audio. This is a middle-grade fantasy novel. We don't cover middle grade usually, but Clark is a notable author, and we'll follow him there. Warriors take all of the village's inhabitants except Abeni, who is taken by an old woman from the woods to become her magical apprentice. From the review in the July issue of Locus by Alex Brown, it is everything you'd expect from Clark, and then some. The morning of Abeni's 12th birthday begins with excitement in her mother's golden wrap and with fresh oils rubbed into her skin. She rushes out to join her friends. Her birthday is the same day as her village's harvest festival, and in 1 year's time she'll be with the older girls beginning their rites of adulthood. But for now, she plays. Or she would, but a dark fog surrounds her village, and the old witch who lives in the forest arrives with a dire warning. Something evil is coming. Abeni and her friends wonder if this great threat that has apparently been ravaging the lands beyond the forest has something to do with the strange dream they all had last night of children being stolen away by a song. Before Abeni can figure out the mystery, her village is attacked by demon-like warrior women with snake-like ropes that drag their victims into the fog. From M.J. Kuhn, we saw Thick as Thieves out from Saga Press in trade paperback, ebook, and audio. This is a fantasy heist novel. Raya Catella, aka the Butcher of Carrowick, needs to get the gang back together for one last job. A terrifyingly powerful tool has fallen into the hands of Colum Clem, the criminal leader of the Saints, who was already one of the most dangerous men alive. And now he has the ability to force magic-wielding adepts to his will. From Mercedes Lackey and Larry Dixon, we saw Griffin in Light out from Daw in hardcover, trade paperback, and ebook. This is a fantasy novel in the world of Valdemar. On the border between Valdemar and the deadly Pelagier's forest, the Griffin hero Kelvrin returns from a near-fatal self-sacrifice that won him the approval of Valdemar's ground troops, but caused a diplomatic crisis. Frustrated by his lack of a hero's welcome, Kelvrin is talked into helping with an expedition by his old friend Firesong. From Josh Roundtree, we saw The Legend of Charlie Fish, out from Tachyon Publications in trade paperback and ebook. This is a humorous, historical, weird Western novel. A telepathic girl frees an enigmatic gill man from a shady circus, and they head for Galveston, Texas, just in time for the deadly Great Storm of 1900. From Nikki Pa Preto, we saw Bonesmith, out from McElderry in hardcover, ebook, and audio. This is a young adult fantasy novel. In the Dominions, the dead linger, violent and unpredictable, unless a bonesmith severs a ghost from its earthly remains. For Bonesmith Wren, becoming a Valkyr, a ghost-fighting warrior, is a chance to solidify her place in the noble House of Bone and impress her frequently absent father. I mean, it seems like a nice career trajectory to me, to go from freeing ghosts to fighting ghosts. That seems like a promotion. But of course Wren fails her qualifying trial, and then she is banished to the border wall, and how's she going to impress her father then? From Aaron A. Craig, we saw House of Roots and Ruin, out from Delacorte in hardcover, ebook, and audio. This is a young adult fantasy novel. In a manor by the sea, one sister is still cursed. Despite dreams of adventures far beyond the Solent shores, 17-year-old Verity Thomas has remained at her family's estate, Highmore, with her older sister Camille, while their sisters have scattered across Arcania. From Donna Glee Williams, we saw The Night Field, out from Joe Fletcher in hardcover, ebook, and audio. This is a fantasy novel. Welcome to the real, where pin-poised people live in harmony with nature until a brown fog threatens their whole world. From Nina George, we saw The Little Village of Book Lovers, out from Ballantine in hardcover, trade paperback, ebook, and audio. This is a fantasy novel in a little town in the south of France in the 1960s. Little Marie-Jeanne can see the marks love has left on the people around her, tiny glowing lights on the faces and hands that shimmer more brightly when the one meant for them is near. Before long, Marie-Jeanne is playing matchmaker, bringing true loves together in her village. From Yael Goldstein Love, we saw The Possibilities, out from Random House in hardcover, ebook, and audio. This is a fantasy novel. When Hannah's worst nightmare comes true and Jack disappears from his crib, she must tap into an extraordinary ability she never knew she had in order to save him. She must enter different versions of her life while holding on to what is most important to her in this one, to bring her child back home. From Genevieve Gornichek, we saw The Weaver and the Witch Queen, out from Ace in hardcover, ebook, and audio. This is a fantasy novel inspired by Norse mythology. When Odni's farm is destroyed and Signy is kidnapped by Viking raiders, Odni is set adrift from the life she imagined, but she's determined to save her sister, no matter the cost. From Gabriela Romero Lacruz, we saw The Sun and the Void, out from Orbit US in trade paperback, ebook, and audio. This is an epic fantasy novel. Two women embark on a quest that draws them into a world of dark gods and ancient magic, in this debut novel inspired by the history and folklore of colonial South America. From Violet Milan, we saw The Court War, out from Daw in hardcover, trade paperback, and ebook. This is a fantasy novel, the second in a series. Healer Fenrir Lowens faced the Goldstone, but now has to get the White Court practitioners to return to the old ways that keep the world healthy. Next up, anthologies and collections. That's books made of a bunch of other stories for anyone who's not really listening. We have 3 titles this week. From editor Donna Scott, we saw Best of British Science Fiction 2022, out from New Con Press UK in trade paperback. This is a year's best anthology with stories from 2022. Authors include Brent Baldwin, Alice Dryden, Fiona Moore, Lavi Tidhar, and Neil Williamson. From editors Robert Silverberg and Brian Thomas Schmidt, we saw Robots Through the Ages, out from Blackstone Publishing in hardcover, trade paperback, ebook, and audio. This is an anthology of 17 stories about robots, including 3 new stories by Sean M. Maguire, Ken Scholes, and Martin L. Shoemaker. Authors with reprint stories include Philip K. Dick, Karen Haber, Clifford D. Simak, and Connie Willis. Introduction by Robert Silverberg includes a list of recommended reading. From editors Kevin J. Anderson and Allyson Longueira, we saw Merciless Mermaids, Tales from the Deep, which is a pretty merciless pun, if I do say so. Good attention to detail. My compliments to the chef. Anyway, Merciless Mermaids, Tales from the Deep is published by Wordfire Press in hardcover, trade paperback, and ebook. This is a fantasy/horror anthology that features 30 original stories and poems by Mercedes Lackey, Rick Wilbur, DJ Butler, Gamma Ray Martinez, Julia V, Ken Bebel, and many others, exploring the darker side of merfolk: desire, envy, love unfulfilled, grace ungranted, loneliness turned to rage, the good stuff. That wraps up this week. Thanks for spending some time with us. We know YouTube is a blizzard of content. and we're glad you found us. At Locus, we set out to tell you everything relevant that's happening in the science fiction, fantasy, horror publishing space. Do me a favor, hit all the buttons below. It matters to us and it helps us out a lot if you can like and subscribe and turn notifications on. And if you've done all that stuff already and you still want to be good to us, please tell a friend about this channel. We appreciate you. The magazine and YouTube channel are a labor of love. We are at Locus Mag or at Locus Magazine on most platforms. You can read more about the science fiction, fantasy, and horror field over at www.locusmag.com or support us on our Patreon. We are a 501c3 nonprofit. Come back and see us again soon, and we'll be here next week with more new books.